Hello and welcome to our presentation called We're Cool, We Promise, and we're here to help an introduction to the Gale Family Library at the Minnesota Historical Society. My name is Jennifer Wagner and I am a reference librarian at the Gale Family Library. I have worked for MNHS for almost 18 years at this point.
My name is Michael Owen, and I've been with MNHS the 12 years this year. I'm a reference technician here at the Gale Family Library.
So first, what this presentation was originally supposed to be when we submitted it to MLA last summer, at the beginning of summer. We were going to go over the services we provide to libraries and librarians and their patrons, including our distance services, and what we can offer to library systems and what systems within our libraries are available from anywhere and everywhere that can be used from a distance. And also kind of going over what we have in the collections and what kind of library we are. And then this happened. This was announced at the end of July, so after we had submitted our proposal already to MLA. The Historical Society laid off 36 people, 6 of which came from the library. As you can see on the screen, we lost 6 positions between the layoffs and not filling a few vacant positions we had open, which resulted in a 35% decrease in our staff. So Mike and I had to pivot real quick and try to figure out how to still make the presentation we wanted, but within our new reality. So what this presentation will be is that we still want to help. We're going to give you a brief introduction to the library itself and our systems, kind of walk you through what has shifted and is currently shifting because it's still a work in progress, and what our new service model is, and the services that we can provide at the moment, and even talk about the ones that are currently on hold but will hopefully be coming back at some point in the future. So, an introduction to the Gale Family Library. So we are librarians and reference technicians and reference assistants within the library itself. And we also work very closely with our catalogers, curators, digitization staff, and a lot of other departments within the Historical Society. We were founded in 1849, the same time that the Historical Society was founded, which is also the year that Minnesota became a territory. We collect books, manuscripts, and other archival materials from all over the state. But we are not a circulating library, we are a closed stacks library. We have a whole room dedicated to maps and atlases for storage, and those are available. Either some of them are available online and some of them are available in person. We also house oral histories. Again, a lot of those are also available online. We'll get into that later. Music and readings, and we have about 500,000 books and articles in our stacks. We are also the home of the Minnesota State Archives. So we collect state and local government records, including things from state institutions like prisons and state hospitals and the state orphanage, legal and legislative records, if you're into that, or if you know somebody who wants to do some legal or legislative research, especially the more historic records, we have them, and we can help you through that too. Anything for commissions in counties and local commissions, court records, so for the county, the Court of Appeals and Supreme Court, as well as other local records, including school district records.
All right, so here's a little more about the Gale Family Library. So newspapers is a really big main collection here that you can access here at the Gale Family Library. So for newspapers, there's both microfilm and digital versions. So microfilm, so for newspapers, they make up the bulk of our microfilm collection, over 3 million issues, believe it or not. That's quite a lot. But some of those have been digitized and put in our Minnesota Digital Newspaper Hub. So the newspaper hub contains newspapers from 1849 to current. A few major runs that you can access from home include the Minneapolis Spokesman, St. Paul Recorder, and the current iteration is the Minnesota Spokesman Recorder. There's also the Swedish American Newspaper Project that includes newspapers both in Swedish and for the Swedish American populations. And the most anticipated recent addition to remote access is the new St. Paul Pioneer Press collection, digitized and full text searchable, 1861 to 1961. So pretty great news for researchers remotely. And then we also have external newspaper subscriptions that we have subscriptions to that people can access on site. Some key ones are the historic Minneapolis Tribune, which includes 1867 to the present. There's also a 2002 to current text-only version. And we also have the St. Paul Pioneer Press, again, only text only for 2010 through 2021, as well as newspapers.com. Next slide.
So how much stuff do we have? Well, here is an image of our archival storage room with our library manager in the middle there for scale. We have it there. It's a room that is 2 football fields long and 3 stories high. And 1 person in a forklift it retrieves any and all boxes in that room. So, which is why it can take up to a half hour or 45 minutes, depending on how busy we are, to get things delivered to your table, especially anything that's in a box, like the boxes you see in that image. There's different storage for different storage types. Obviously, we have, so our photos, some photos and negatives, for example, or film are in a cold storage room in the building. Our other photos are kept in filing cabinets in storage. We also have filing cabinets for all of our maps, and we have our 2 floors of books for our stacks. And we also have and because we are running out of room in that huge archival storage room, we have off-site materials as well. So those are usually materials that are from collections that aren't used a whole lot and are quite large, or have been digitized, and there really isn't a need to have the paper copies on site anymore. And those materials, any collections that might be off-site that a researcher may want to see, if they're not digitized, we can have them pulled, but we would need a heads up because it can take us sometimes up to a week to go to our off-site storage and pull those materials. Now we're going to go into distance services and search tools. So as I mentioned before, we are not a circulating library. We do have an ILL service, interlibrary loan, if you don't know what ILL means, for microfilm mostly. It also applies to some articles, and again, we'll get into that a little bit later. We're going to discuss what research services we have and which ones are currently open to researchers. Also briefly go over our distant copy requests and virtual viewings. So the way we divide our research services is the librarians handle certain ones and the ref techs, or the reference technicians like Mike here, handle others. So these are a list of the librarian research services that we offer. And you can see that only a few have been made available since we did have to close after the layoffs and other things that occurred. We did have to close down our research services so we could reassess our capacity and see what we could open and slowly reintroduce these things to our workflows and adjust as we go along. So right now, the Owatonna State Public School Records Research Service is open, and that is the state orphanage. And our historic photograph orders and permissions, as well as media duplication and permissions, are open as well. Any of our closed services are available for legal or official purposes. So if there was some reason you needed some of these things for, say, Real ID or any other applications for things, just send us an email and let us know.
All right, so these are research services that reference technicians like myself do work on a daily basis, pretty much. So as you can see, there's quite a list here. We have things from city directory search requests to a more recent one is a copy request. So things from microfilm we can digitally scan and send to researchers. We work on district and probate, and we also have the Supreme and Appeals Court from the Minnesota Supreme Court up until 1992, I believe. And then military records is a popular one, and then other things from newspapers. And then we have some of the railroad employee indexes for the Great Northern and Northern Pacific are one of the two ones that we have. And vital records, quite a popular one. We do have early birth and death registers and records from the counties and the townships. Not all of them, but quite a few. And we have some yearbooks from different schools from around the state in our collections. And the most recent one, the new one here is the Vintage Cookie Recipe Request Service, where people can order pre-selected recipes from our cookbook collections from both churches and local organizations.
Shout out to Mike, that was his idea. And it's been very popular since we launched it.
And it's $1.
Yeah, it's $1 per recipe. So now we're going to talk about some of the accessible databases and systems that we have available for you and your researchers. So two of the big ones are our library and archives catalog that searches all the paper stuff that we have in the collections, maps, books, anything like our archival collections. So state archives, manuscript collections, any of that would be able to be found in the catalog. And also collections online, another one that's it's widely accessible, and that holds a lot of our images and media that has been digitized. So the photos are a big one in collections online. Photos of 3D objects in our collections are also in there. That's where you can also find the oral histories that have been digitized, as well as any clips from KSTP. We also have those in there as well. Collections Online is a little bit of a buggy system, just to give you a heads up. If you have run into any problems, you can always email us or call us. Finding aids are another thing that we have in our systems, which are also available to anybody from a distance, as long as they've been digitized. Not all of our finding aids have been digitized yet, and if they have been, they are connected to the catalog record. So you should see a link in the catalog describing with a link to the finding aid, which is an inventory of what is in the collection. If you see the language "see finding aid in library," that means that it has not been digitized yet. However, we are always willing and able to send a PDF scan of any of our finding aids to anyone who needs to see them. And we also have what are called P number collections. I can't remember why they start with P numbers, but those are just essentially smaller manuscript collections that we have. And then research guides or libguides that we have created. I believe the number is actually closer to 140 guides now. We haven't been adding any new ones recently just because of staffing. But below are some of our more recent more popular ones. Sorry, they're not recent at all. These are very popular ones that are used often, especially with people from a distance. And we're always willing to take suggestions for research guides as well. If there's something that you wish that we had, let us know and we'll add it to our growing list of research guides to create in the future.
All right, so earlier I touched on this presentation, the Minnesota People Record Search and the Minnesota Digital Newspaper Hub. So the Minnesota People Record Search is one of our key databases that people can access from home or anywhere there's an internet connection, basically, and computer. So it's a place where people can search for birth and death records that were registered in Minnesota between the specified time period. So pretty much just like you search for a name and you can either order the certificates from the People Record Search digitally for $9 each, or you can come in and do research here during open hours. The death certificates will be cheaper on site, but it'll still be $9 on site because of the state health department put that rule in. So we got to abide by that rule. You can also access and search for territorial and state census records. Yes, so Minnesota had its own territorial and state census records, 1849 to 1905 being the most recent one. So you can search for a name and see the digitized record from that database. And we also have a few other key military-related records, such as veterans' graves and World War I records. Also, the Minnesota Digital Newspaper Hub. Again, it's digitized newspapers from the Minnesota Historical Society newspaper collection. It's full text searchable and also free to use. The time span is 1849 to 2025. So if you really want numbers, there you go. It's 669,000 issues, 8.9 million pages about. With those being impressive numbers, it's really only about 11% of the total collection. And for some of those more recent years, because of copyright, that's going to be something if you wanted to research those more recent newspapers, you're going to have to come on site to access those newspapers digitally here. And then the Minnesota People Record Search. So this is the current iteration of how it looks now. So again, it's got birth and death records, census records, and quite a few World War I related records. So you can, again, use this to search for relatives, vital records, census records, and military records. And you should be able to order even, a lot of these from home. And the World War I soldier photos, I think, is a more recent edition where you can actually see digitized images of World War I soldiers. And I don't think it's everyone that served in Minnesota, but it's really cool to see the photos on there. So we encourage people to kind of start here when they're doing their research on their relatives. And this is what the Minnesota Digital Newspaper Hub looks like currently. It's been around, I think, for at least 10 years, and every month there's a content update that's added to the hub, whether it's a mix of old or new. I think on the Facebook page of the Gale Family Library, there is updates that tells people that access the page what's been added to the hub. And you can always call us or email us to check for us to see if a title or years have been on there. So, but feel free to, use this newspaper hub and find what you can find out from relatives. All right, next slide. So earlier I mentioned the St. Paul Pioneer Press being the recent addition for digital newspaper access. So this is the one you can also access from home, and it's digitized newspapers from our collection, full text searchable and free to use. The time span is about 100 years there, and it has about 35,804 issues, about 750,000 pages. There'll be a new version of the newspaper hub coming out sometime this summer or later this year. So this is what it's going to look like for the main Minnesota Digital Newspaper Hub, I believe. So maybe play around with this and see how it works. Works a little bit differently and looks a little bit differently than the current hub, but it's really fun to use, and it's great that we have this. Next slide.
Okay, we're going to talk about some changes to the library after the layoffs and other things.
All right, so here we have some copy requests, research services, and library services that we offer. So during the, I guess for a while now, when the staff layoffs happened and we had to take a pause on things, we had to suspend a lot of these things. So as you can see here, there are some things that are still on hiatus for now. Group and class visits are a popular one here. That we had to put a pause on with the coming back date to be determined right now. So no status as to when that'll come back. And then there are some select research services that still aren't quite open fully yet, but can accommodate people under those certain special circumstances for official government purposes, legal purposes. But the legislative document search request, and then the other ones that the librarians work on. So those ones denoted there. You can always email or call us. Well, probably email us to say like, hey, I need this for this special purpose, and the librarians will work with whomever to accommodate them to meet their needs and wants. And then, so the services below are ones that were on pause for a while, but have now since come back live slowly here. So copy services, so copy requests from books, copy requests from folders like manuscripts and microfilm. The virtual viewings are now live again, where people can remotely access materials over a live webcam conference call. their photograph and AV duplication is back up now too in the Owatonna State Public School search. And then the remaining research services, but then noting that there are some that are still not fully open, the ones listed above there on the list.
So another thing that is had to change was how we retrieve items for our researchers. One change that went into effect, if you make an appointment to come into the library, which we strongly recommend because we're very limited on space, researchers can now request up to 6 items in advance, up from 3. This saves time for our reference assistants and whoever's operating the forklift that day to maybe have a little less pressure when we're open to the public to retrieve items, and a little less of a rush at the beginning of the day, especially when they can get inundated with just requests. And in this way also it works out for the researchers that make appointments, because then they just come into the library and their items are already waiting for them. So they don't have to, I don't want to say lose, but they can get right into they don't have to wait that half hour to 45 minutes to get their items. And they can just dive into their research as soon as they come into the room. Another thing that has changed is the promised time turnaround for same day requests. So that's any request that you make after you're on site. Right now we say it can take up to 45 minutes to retrieve an item once it's submitted. I don't think we've actually bumped up against that quite yet. I know we've gotten over the half-hour mark, but if we've gotten to the 45 minutes, it's been a rare occurrence so far, and hopefully it stays that way. And also it may take up to an hour to get items during our lunch periods, because staffing that's already short-staffed becomes even more short-staffed during the couple of hours that we have taking turns with taking lunches. Workflows have also changed out of necessity. The librarians and the ref techs are being trained or retrained on retrieval procedures so we can help out our reference assistants when they need them, when they need us to help, I should say. Librarians will also be trained or retrained on microfilm procedures. Some of the librarians started as reference assistants years ago. I'm one of them. And Mike, as a ref tech, he started as a reference assistant as well. So we just have to be reminded on how to do certain things and to help out where we can help out. And more staff are going to be trained to drive the forklift, so it isn't up to just one person to do that in our archival storage, and they will be given regular shifts, which should also help with our workflows.
All right, so we do offer phone reference, so that's one of the daily tasks of a reference technician here. So some changes in effect due to the reduced staffing level, and but still being open to the public for 3 days of each week. So on days that we are open Thursdays through Saturdays from 10 to 4, we won't be answering live calls on days that we are open, but we do promise to have a turnaround time to return calls within 2 to 5 business days. Our open hours are Thursday to Saturday from 10 to 4. So if you have a question and we don't get to it, and if you aren't able, you can certainly come in or explore other options here for research. And if people are calling us for same day appointment related questions only, can call the reference desk line at the following number there, or send us an email. So like if you're running late to your appointment, reach out to us, or if you need to call to cancel or email to cancel, please do. So there's other ways to reach out to us as well, other than our main reference phone line. So some workstation availability and appointments, some changes that were made. So the number of workstations, so the research, we'll get into this further on in the presentation, but we've had to reduce the number of stations to have our new reality here. So with research tables, we went down from 27 to 16. So those are tables for people that want to come in and look at manuscript collections, any like paper materials, like, manuscripts, state archives, books, maps, other things like that. And then a number of microfilm stations are now reduced down to 9 microfilm digital scanners and 4 traditional printer readers and 1 viewer station. Appointments, so like as before, these are optional but highly recommended if you want to come in and do research. Um, we have turned away researchers when we are at capacity, which is, well, we really still encourage the appointments.
We do,
Yeah.
yes. It's not a good feeling to turn people away. We try to accommodate them as much as we can, but sometimes we're just full and there are no places. There's no room at the inn.
Yeah. So, so researchers can now reserve an appointment up to 4 hours before the appointment start time. So appointment times are 10 to 1, and then there's a 1 to 4, so they can do it at either, oh gosh, I can't do the math, 5 a.m. or 9 a.m., same day. And then there are appointment slot limits that each researcher can have. So each researcher can either have 12 half-day 3-hour increments or complete like 6 full-day appointments total per month. So make note of that. All right. And then prefacing, on the previous slide here. So with the staff reductions that I guess left us to combine research spaces. So back right after MLA,
Yeah.
we had to completely shut down the library for in-person research for a week. So at the end of October there, we had to physically combine both rooms. So if you've ever been here before, prior to October 2025, there was a microfilm room on one side, left of the registration desk in the library, and the Weyerhaeuser reading room to the right. No more. So microfilm collection and most of the machines have now moved to the reading room. And then the 30th, we reopened for in-person research shows, quite the week. Yeah. And of course, we had outside help move the things we couldn't move. So sort of photos below there. There's the old microfilm room, photos on the right. Everything's in one room now.
Mhm.
So, all right, next slide.
I forgot. We're gonna take the microfilm room and move it somewhere else, which is exactly what we did. We moved it into half of the reading room.
All right, so what has not changed since the staff layoffs and the move here? Collections online, that's still something you can remotely access from home. The Minnesota Digital Newspaper Hub, our Minnesota Paper Record Search, our Library and Archives catalog, and our LibGuides and research guide. So you can still access them home. Nothing's changed there. Interlibrary loan services. There'll be more about that in a bit. The digitization of our collections will still keep happening here and ongoing, monthly, daily basis. And our open hours has not changed. Thursday through Saturday, 10 to 4.
So for interlibrary loan, it is a thing that we do. Um, Mostly microfilm, via Minitex and OCLC. We do it for Minnesota public and academic libraries. We can send the film via courier. Person who is in charge of the interlibrary loans made sure that we wanted to say something about make sure you have that 3-digit code of your network when you decide to do the interlibrary loan stuff. I honestly don't know what that means, but Colin does. He knows exactly what that means. And that the microfilm is newspapers and manuscripts and state archives. As long as we have a master copy of the microfilm, we can send the microfilm to your library. Also, make sure you have a this may seem common sense, but make sure you have a microfilm reader of some sort. That has happened where people have requested microfilm and there's no reader for them to use it on the other end. So make sure you actually have a way for your researchers or for yourself to look at the microfilm. And we also do offer scans for articles with a 25-page limit, also through Minitex and OCLC. And if you have any questions about the interlibrary loan services that we offer, please email ill@mnhs.org. Colin gets those emails and he will answer you with all the right information. So what is only accessible at the library?
Okay, so like I kind of said earlier, for the Minnesota Digital Newspaper Hub, it's got 1849 to 2025, but of course, copyright. So, anything from our newspaper collection, whether it's from microfilm or the physical copies, that have been digitized, so about after 1977, anything digitized for those newspapers, and if there's no license copyright agreement between the proprietor and us, that would be something that the researcher would need to come in and actually look at on the reading room computers here at the Gale Family Library during open hours. And then the Minnesota newspaper collection, the digitization of the things not on film is still an ongoing process. So there's sort of a current and backlog of sorts of physical newspapers, some roughly 2005 to current that is not on film. So we've still been acquiring those newspapers throughout the years, but the digitization of that is a multi-step process. Um, so if things, if you don't have a microfilm copy, you can certainly come in and research those newspapers during open hours here as well, or maybe a research service that we have here. Um, and then the complete set of finding aids you can access here, but we can also email you a digital version of the finding aid. If it's not linked to the catalog record, always email or call us and we'll make sure to do that for you too. And then things that aren't on collections online, and other materials, AV materials and manuscript collections or state archives that aren't on the finding aid and digitize. We have some equipment here. We can see some of that too. So there's more AV things here than you can see on collections online or perhaps through the catalog record and the finding aid. And then some external-based databases that we have here, subscriptions, like we have Ancestry.com. We are a Family Search affiliate library with Family Search, which means even though Family Search is free to use, there's different tiers of access that you have for Family Search, depending on where you are accessing that from. I know from home you can only see so much, but you can see more here since we're an affiliate library. So there's a lot of vital records that you can kind of access through Family Search here. Fold 3, we have fire insurance maps, the Historic Tribune I mentioned earlier, as well as newspapers.com. And we also have eLibrary MN and eLibrary Minnesota Scholarly Journals and JSTOR.
JSTOR is new due to popular demand. And we are very glad to have it. All right, and now we're going to talk about appointments.
Oh.
So the appointments can be made in our self-service system, which is mnhs.libcal.com, or you can get access through our library, our main page. It's under the hours and about tab, I believe. The appointments are 3 hours long each. There was the morning appointments from 10 to 1 and the afternoon appointment from 1 to 4. You can book back-to-back appointments and be here all day. That is fine. As Mike mentioned earlier, we can book, those appointments can be booked 4 hours before their start time. And again, they are not required, but they are strongly encouraged because of the limitation of space that we have now. And appointments can be, for different days. You can if you're coming from out of town and you're going to be here Thursday, Friday, and Saturday, you can book appointments for all 3 days. That is fine. We have people who do that all the time. We do have the monthly limit, as Mike had mentioned before, of 12 appointment slots for each researcher. So that's 6 full days of research appointments. If you ask, we can schedule you more often. We do that quite a bit, especially for people who are coming from out of town, because we get people from other states, other countries, and they will email and say, hey, I'm going to be in the state of Minnesota for a month and I want to do research every weekend that I'm, every Thursday, Friday, and Saturday that I'm in town. We can book them and make sure that they have their appointments on the books and scheduled and ready to go. It's just that you'd have to contact us to be able to do that. You could do up to 6 full days of research on your own, but then we would have to add more after that, which we are happy to do for you. And as I mentioned before, some of the benefits are you can request up to 6 items in advance and email notifications of any events that may impact your research visit. For example, we are close to what was formerly called the Excel Energy Center, is now the Grand Casino Arena. We're the Minnesota Wild Play, so if there's any big events that happen, we can let you know. If there's let you know about traffic. We're also where the Twin Cities Marathon ends on in October when that happens. We can let you know when it's marathon weekend if you want to try to come down here, which can always be tricky, or any other major events that might be happening around this area. So when you go to make an appointment, this is the screen that you will see. You click on a green spot on the calendar that means it's open and you can book an appointment. Red means it's taken, and the yellow one is, or the striped one, depending on how, if you're colorblind or not. That one is what you have currently clicked on. So for this, imagine it, well, this day in the past, when we took this screenshot, we were not very busy, but I have a feeling that we were pretty full by the time it got close to that date. So for the research tables, there are two different types of reservations. There's the computer only station where you cannot get any materials delivered to your table, to the computer, because you have to be at one of the actual tables for that. So if you want to look at research collections, you need to book an actual reading room table or a research table. For the computers, that's so you can access, say, ancestry.com. You want to look up, use our international subscription that we have, our institutional subscription, and use that. You want to look at Historic Minneapolis Tribune through ProQuest or our JSTOR account, for example. Those are all things you can do from the computers.
So the microfilm side of the room now, weird to say. So these are the three different types of machines that we have. So there's some people that just don't want all the fancy tech. They just want a simple machine that makes the prints. So for those kinds of machines, researchers would want to book the reader printer machines on the left. So those will print. The middle one is a scanner machine. It's a Scan Pro. We have about 9 of those. These are really great if people really want that best high-res copy, because with these are great because some things that were microfilmed were not always microfilmed the greatest because quality control, I don't know. But for these microfilm machines, they can, increase the brightness and contrast. You can do all those adjustments before you make the scans or print. So like you make a digital scan to USB drives, 20 cents per page. Printing is 35 cents per page. And then there's somebody who just wants to look at something and not anything else. That's a viewer on the right. Again, there's only one of these viewers, and many more of the other kinds. So
as of now, we have way more scanners are our biggest selection, which was not the case once upon a time. So for requesting materials on site, all of our computers have an in-house page that is the default page for everybody, for every computer that's in the reading room area. And you can click on that link, it goes to a Google form that you fill out with your name, your table number, the title of the collection or the item that you're looking for, and the call number for it. Materials in advance are only available when you make an appointment. You have to make an appointment because that's how you get the link to the self-service side of ordering things in advance. Again, 6 items maximum for the advance requests, and they must be received by 12 p.m. the day prior to the appointment so that our retrieval staff can pull the materials and have them waiting. We cannot take same day advance requests or late day the day before. Yeah, so noon the day before your appointment, that is the deadline for requesting materials in advance. Once you are on site, parking is $6 all day for non-members. That if you have to leave the building and come back, make sure you have your receipt, just show it to the parking booth and they will let you back in. There are a limited number of metered parking spots near the entrance, but I think those are also equivalent to $6. I think they used to be by hour and I don't think they are anymore, but I could be wrong. There's also, of course, bus routes that drop off near the History Center, and we do have a bike rack near the entrance. Once you are on site, admission to the library is free. You do not need to stop at the ticket desk and get a ticket at all. But when you do come into the library, you'll have to sign up for a library card, just like at any other library. All bags must be checked. That includes purses, backpacks, computer bags. in coats and jackets. Everything has to, for collection security, those have to be checked. You can bring in your, excuse me, your computers, your tablets, whatever you're using, but you just can't bring in the bag. And we do have select tables that have outlets, so building was constructed in 1992 at the kind of the perfect wrong time, right before the internet became a thing. And so electrical outlets are a little bit of a commodity, a little hard to get, but we have arranged the reading room in a way to maximize that as much as possible. Also, no beverages, including water, food, pens and inks, and are not allowed into the reading room area as well. We do provide pencils. You're welcome to bring in notebooks to take notes. That's not a problem at all. And then when you get into the research area, you want to check in either at the reference desk for a table or computer, or further down in the room for the microfilm. And once you're on site, you're not tethered to your table or your microfilm machine. You're not tethered to your station. We have computers that are for public use. If you want to look up something really quick, that is just fine. There's restrooms right outside the library, and the drinking fountain's on the other in the other wing of the building, but it's close. It's close. Or you can keep water or your beverage in your locker if you want to check your materials into a locker and lock them up. You have a key that you can use to open that up. That's not a problem. And there is a cafe and vending machines on the first floor for snacks and beverages, or just a place to take a break from research. And when you're on site, we do have copy services. We do not offer same day copies anymore because of the staffing issues. But if they are paper copies, we will mail them to you for free. Otherwise, we do offer digital scans and PDFs, which we do encourage because we can just email those and it's delivered much faster. Also, we do encourage people to take photos of the items and materials they're looking at as long as they are not within copyright. We just ask that before you take a photo that you ask the librarians at the desk if you can do so. Most items in our collections you can take photos of. It just depends on copyright. That's pretty much the one thing that we don't allow. If you need additional help, have any questions for us at all, just call us or email us. That is fine. We encourage people to reach out to us. We are here to help, as the title of the presentation says. We know that this building can be kind of intimidating, and even walking into our lobby can be a bit intimidating because it's a little bit dark in that part of the hallway. But there's not much we can do about that. So this is why we're doing the presentation, so people can see faces and know that we are here to help and that we are friendly folks, or at least we like to think we are. And I guess that's the end of the presentation. It's not going to the next slide, which I thought there was another one, but this is the important information, how to contact us. Thought there was one more, but I guess not. So we are done.
All right. Now I'm going to stop the recording.